Hello, Nigeria. My name is Victor Ogbinka. You're welcome to Vanguard Live. We are not done with the aftermath of Itafaji, the three-story building collapse that has taken so many lives, and of course, thankfully, some other survivors. Particularly noting that children were affected during that crash. We are going to be talking about the psychological effect of what transpired. It has become a thing of concern and worry for residents of those places. And even more so, that is not the first time a crash will be happening in Nigeria, as it were, a building collapse, accident. What happens when we have these things, going around? How do we react to them? How do parents take them? How should the onlookers react when we have this kind of incident? Okay, with me today, I have Dr. Esther Akishola. She's an associate professor and the HOD of psychology, University of Lagos. You're welcome, man.
Hello, Nigeria.
Yeah, and I have the training lead of Mental Awareness Nigeria Initiative, Mani, Shola Ogumbi. You're welcome.
Good morning. Hello, Nigeria.
Yeah, we saw what happened with the Itafaji collapse, and it has become saddening for the whole Nigeria. But let me start with you, Doctor. That is not the first time we are having things like this. Now, putting in mind that psychology is involved, what do you think is going through the minds of the victims, survivors, and even residents of that area?
A lot of emotions are going through their minds. We have 5 basic emotions. One is fear, and that fear is heightened in the victims and those people who are in that surrounding area. And coupled with the fear is anxiety, because they are anxious about what will happen next. They cannot easily forget what has happened the day before, and that picture is still vivid in their mind, and so they are very anxious and they are fearful.
Okay, Shola, you're a mental health person, and just this morning, the news of one of the parents that had about 2 children in that place was said to have committed suicide. It means that the aftermath of this is, could be even worse than the accident, the incident itself. What do you think, or what do you think is happening right now, to those people?
I think when an incident happens, generally emotions are heightened. There's a lot of emotions are all over the place. So people are not thinking rationally. People are going to act not their normal self. So, like you said, the case of suicide, the person's probably feeling overwhelmed, probably thinking of so many scenarios and wondering how they're going to continue with life without their children. So the next logical thing to them is to kill themselves. So there are a lot of emotions all over the place.
Okay, psychology is everything, after a disaster. Am I correct, bro?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
if you see, the psychological effect of this, it is really beating me as a nation. We continue to have disasters, and we set up committee to look into what happened, and the next day we are done mourning and we move on with our life. What is psychology or the association of psychology not doing right, in ensuring that we have our lives back after a disaster?
I think what we are doing as a people currently is to address the situation, the immediate situation where we find an emergency on our hands. But the thing is that is just the first step. Yes, those children were rescued, they were pulled out, some are in the hospitals, but we are not taking care of the psychological impact that it already has on the victims, and that is why we have not been able to reach out to the person that has committed suicide. Because when someone commits suicide, it's like she feels that he has reached the end of the road. There is no need to live anymore. Whereas if there has been a kind of emergency action, like all those, those while they are pulling out the children, their families are assembled somewhere, and they were given, some kind of counseling. It will be a kind of leeway. Maybe the woman that or the person that committed suicide will have been able to hear one or two things that will sort of delay that kind of decision to take his or her own life.
Okay. Presently on Lagos Island, there seems to be a lot of tension, particularly on Apatira Street where that incident happened. Residents told us that that's the second time a building is falling in between a year. Okay, so they are very, very conscious of what is going to happen next. We can hear people, eyewitnesses, saying that we don't know. We just hope that we are not the one. They seem to be living in fear. You have an NGO. What are you doing to, ensure that people know what they are supposed to know before, during, and after disaster? I'm still coming to, how that building ended up, collapsing itself when it probably would have been brought down. So, but let's look at the NGO. What is the NGO doing? You may speak for yourself on this one, and about ensuring that people have the right frame of mind.
Okay, I think there are 3 L's, what I call 3 L's. Look out for symptoms and signs. So you might have like a friend or a family or loved one who might have been a victim of that crash that's in the hospital, or maybe someone that was around the corner and suffered some injury. You can look out for those things and listen to them, listen to what they have to say, because they are going through a lot of internal trauma first of all. So they just need someone to listen to them. So be a listening ear, and then when you know that you can't handle whatever it is they're dealing with, link them up to someone like a professional. We're not saying that religious bodies are not okay enough, but we're saying the professional help is important to give them the help they currently need right now.
I don't know if you saw somewhere on the social media where some persons that are not even living on the island seem to be marking themselves safe, and some others were complaining that it looked like a mockery of those people. I can't be living at Idimu, for example, and something happened at Lagos and I'm marking myself safe.
Yeah.
What
can happen anywhere. I think that that's not a kind of a correct assessment of, whether you are living in Idimu or you are living in Isolo or you are living in Aja. If accident will happen, it will happen.
Okay, now let us go to that building. Doctor, that building has been marked for demolition. It wasn't demolished. Now, this morning, as I speak to you, I think the state government has banned about 45 primary schools, after that event that they felt are not strong enough to stand. 45 just this morning. Okay, is this medicine after death?
More or less. But the thing that they have to take action, but they ought to have known before now that those schools are not, the environment around them are not healthy, and that we are endangering the lives of those children that attend those schools. But the thing is that, just as you said, that this particular building that collapsed have been earmarked for demolition maybe 2 times, but I want to say and that instead of the owner to demolish or to at least to make the thing not functioning, he renovated it, and then, but definitely there must have been some kind of agreement between the owner of the building and those who are supposed to demolish it. But you see, the other thing that I had some people commenting yesterday is that even if government decided to bring bulldozer and demolish the building, it is us that will start saying the government are insensitive to the plight of the poor masses. That is why they can bring bulldozer and remove the source of source of food from somebody's mouth.
Yeah, but funny enough, I sampled the opinion of some of those people there, and well, like you said, maybe it's because it was the scene of disaster.
Yes.
That was why they said what they said. Some people said in that place that they don't mind if they can pull those buildings down, that they are not living in peace. They are not living with they are not sleeping with their two eyes closed.
Why didn't they move out? When they know they are not sleeping with their two eyes closed, they did not move out, and then they are saying it is because of what happened.
Probably for finance sake. What if they can't afford to go elsewhere?
Which one is better? To endanger your life, or to look for something that I know that the cost of living in Lagos is very high.
Yes.
But it's like they are caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. But we have to make a decision at a point in time. Especially they are not the owner of the building, and you know that okay now we are saying that they don't mind if the buildings are pulled down. I think the first thing, probably if they are going to pull it down, they need to move out of the place.
Yes.
They need to move out of the place, and since they have been feeling uncomfortable about it, that's the time they ought to start looking for. You see, they are interwoven. I know that for them to move out of the place, maybe that's where they live, that's where they do their business and all of that. But a time comes when you have to look for a safer place, especially when you have your children with you. When you have your children with you, you need to look for a safer place. So I'm sure maybe their reaction was heightened by what happened, and the fact that they are beginning to think that it can happen to them.
Okay, in a more civilized societies, whenever we have issues like this, you see the security operative, you see forensic experts, you see different people coming to draw a boundary, a demarcation. When I went to Lagos Island, of course, there was a red line where you shouldn't cross, but because of the overwhelming crowd, we saw people exceeding the place where has been marked. There's supposed to be a boundary. We saw people going through those places. Just how dangerous could this be, for a rescue mission to be successful?
I think first of all, the personnel on ground need to be trained that in as much as you barricade a place, it's not enough to just barricade. You have to consciously tell people, don't pass this barricade. We need professionals to move to and fro with easy access. If you guys I'm sure many of them, I haven't been there, but many of them are probably lackadaisical about the barrier they had caused. So we need trained people that know that, okay, we need free movement to and fro from this place. And then it's not even healthy for passerbys to be there. Anything can even happen, and then it's now more calamity and more casualty. So I don't even think it's even proper for them to have been there in the first place, unless you're preferring help. If you're not helping, then I don't think you should be there to be looking.
Okay, if you're just joining us, this is Vanguard Live. We are looking at the aftermath of the collapsed building at Itafaji. What is the psychological implication and likely solution, so that next time we will be in a better position to ensure that things are not going on. And I have with me Dr. Esther Olushola, the head of department, psychology department, Unilag, and I have, of course, Shola Ogunbi, also a trained lead at MANI. MANI is a mental awareness Nigeria. Okay, thank you. Let us look at let me ask you, Doctor. Grenfell Tower, last year there was a collapse, and I think 2 years ago now, I think there was a fire incident.
So I think there was also is it last year? Somewhere in where I come from, on that Lekki Egbe road, there was a collapse of buildings.
Well, we are losing count on the number of buildings that are falling in Lagos every time. There has been a lot of blame game from the government to the developers to the town planners and those that are supposed to check if this building are worthy of standing at all. But the thing is, it will continue to happen, unfortunately.
It should not continue.
It should not.
I think we need some kind of blatant truth to say. I don't know why it has become entrenched in us to believe that it's okay to cut corners. Because, for example, I don't know how far it is true that this building that collapsed was a bungalow before they raised it to 3-story building. And you expect that the foundation for a bungalow will be able to withstand a 3-story building. Definitely the developer ought to have pointed that out to the owner that this cannot be. If you want to raise it, then you have to do a proper foundation for a 3-story building. But no, we think that okay, if we say that, we might lose the business. The person may not want to give it to us.
Okay, but let's assume that the developer is saying this and the owner is not taking it.
There should be processes that you can report these people to.
Yeah, that should be.
That you're putting in
That
danger.
should be. You know that I also want to believe that before you rent a building in Lagos, you get a building plan and you get it approved.
Yes.
You know, you get it approved. You know, but we also know that so many landowners, they do economizing and they maximize their space. Where they are supposed to put a bungalow, they put 2 or 3 bungalows just because they want to maximize.
Yeah.
I have seen some landowners that erect a mini building on their fence.
I'm trying to picture what that looks like.
Yes, on the fence. They use the fence, the fence between one house and another house. They built another like. So what do we call that one? You know, these are things that are never allowed in the international community.
Okay, this is a government issue. Do
Yes,
you agree?
it's a government issue.
And
I think if they actually do their work, you know, it is one thing to have a building plan. It is another thing to ensure that what is supposed to be built there is what is built there.
Okay, I'm not trying to give the government soft landing here, but just like you mentioned, there are times where the government might want to make a move to do the right thing, and we see the people protesting, fighting against it. I remember one administration in Lagos State tried to clear some parts of I don't know, the pipeline, the Dimo area at some point, and there was a lot of uproar. Then no, you shouldn't destroy those places, you shouldn't do this and that. You know, if the government is trying to make these things happen.
But do you know that one they are saying, you know, recently, I don't know whether it was last year, some people are scooping petrol and they got burnt.
Yes. Okay, now let us go to sensitization and awareness.
Yes.
Because I think it boils down to how much we tell people or what we don't tell people. Sensitization. What should we be sensitizing people about when it comes to disaster?
I think it's constant repetition that is the means, because if you tell people one, they're probably not going to forget. So it's, you know how we say practice makes perfect.
Yes.
If you constantly keep at it, keep saying it, keep making them aware. Like I said, if we constantly have trained personnel at these places, we're constant about it, that you don't crowd an accident scene. You don't, people constantly are conscious of it. I think it's going to reduce the number of incidents we have. It's going to make people speak up more, because like what the doctor said about how it's the people that will say no, don't bring down this building, because it's for their own good. If you are saying, oh, let them bring down this building, it's for our own good, people are constantly aware. I think constant sensitization is not just a one-off. You have to be consistent about the
Okay.
We also have to sensitize ourselves about the adverse and dangerous effect of crowd behavior.
Yes.
You know, because there is need, when we have emergency situation on our hands, the kind of people that we need around that situation are those that can render one help or another. We should not debar those that can render any help by just throwing our hands in despair and say, hey, and then we are shouting. But at the same time, we are onlookers that are not ready to contribute, you know, to alleviate part of the problem of that. Because we were told that in that collapsed building, people that want to help could not have access because of the crowd. And what were the crowd doing? They were just shouting, Abiyamo, all of them. I mean, that's a reflection of helplessness.
Doctor, I don't want us to scratch the surface of this matter.
Yes.
You know, we are special people in Nigeria.
Yes.
We react to things differently. I don't think we interpret the same thing like every other part of the world. I don't know. You know.
I know. I'm not saying, but I think we are overdoing it by not allowing those people that need to help. If you see some of those videos, you see that those people who are doing relief there, they have a hell of a time controlling the crowd.
According to eyewitness, I was there. I was told while on that scene, on that site, that in fact they commended the residents of that area that they were the first responder when it happened, and they helped in rescuing a lot of
those
people.
Were the ones that were helping. There are some other ones that migrated from there, those were onlookers, that they were not allowing those people to help. Yes.
Now today is Friday. There is no disaster today, thankfully. So how do we go? Where do we go to from here? How do we start passing sensitization messages? And because we wouldn't have gone to Itafaji to tell them that in case there's a building, please don't go near this place. How do we go to Anthony? How do we go to Aja? How do we go to Obalende? How do we go to Songwater to tell them that you get what I'm trying to say, that where do we start from?
I think it's a we thing, first of all.
Okay.
Like starting from our immediate communities. Like I work at an NGO, obviously. So if we partner with the right bodies, and we have volunteers, definitely we have people that are willing to actually go, but we need an extra force and motivation. If you have people willing, and just like I said, the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. If you have people willing, I mean, the work is less of a work when you have people that are willing to go to speak to these people. So if you have hands, you have the means to go about it. Like, okay, we're saying 10 people should go to Aja, 10 people should go to Inupeju, 10 people. If everything happens at once, we're saying every month, let's do this. Go to these nooks and crannies of all these places and tell them these are the things that are happening.
Yeah.
This is what you should do when such an incident happens. You should be your brother's keeper. This is symptoms you should look for. First aid treatment. You can even partner with all these Red Crosses and on how to train people like prompt response, not just be looking and commenting and feeling helpless.
Doctor,
I think it has to be a we thing, as you said. We have to have a kind of collaboration between the NGOs, government agencies, and then probably target the densely populated areas where you have all of these I don't want to say unplanned buildings.
okay.
Because
They could be unplanned anyway. Yes. Yeah.
where there is they are densely populated, the houses are into one another, and then you have
A lot of people
people staying there. That if there is a collaborative kind of arrangement whereby we say, okay, we want to be doing sensitization awareness programs, it will not only be on, this is just one of the incidences. We are talking about collapsed building. We have incidences of fire taking,
yes.
that we have this body that have a kind of recurrent, regular sensitization programs, that it is planned, that it is planned, and then we target areas like that place, Agegule, where we have high concentration, densely populated, and the houses are choked together like that.
Do we have enough psychologists in Nigeria?
We have psychologists in Nigeria, but we are not making use of them.
Are they making use of us?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I think that, as I said, there is need for a collaboration between the professionals and the media.
Okay.
Because I think the professionals and the media can actually help go a long way about these sensitization programs. I know that I'm sorry, when I was growing up, there is something we call a diffusion in Yoruba land, that are put in villages, and if there could be, because you will argue some people don't have television in their houses, but if government can put that one in the marketplace, there is a radio that will talk, and then that's one way by which you can sensitize our people. You know, but we have to work in, you know, professionals and media.
You know, psychologists, to me, psychologists can tell. They are like mind readers.
We are not.
Yes, I'm just trying to. You know,
so
it looks
we are
like
not.
you were a mind reader. You can tell me the next thing I'm likely to do. If not, like you are reading my mind in that concept, but if something goes wrong, you can tell me the likely things that can happen. You know, there's a fire. You can tell me that it's likely going to suffer from PSTD. And there could be trauma, there could be trauma, you know, all those things, and you can prevent, you can wait for me while I come to that place, you know, to that stage of the crisis, and you prevent it from happening, or you tell me what to do. I'm thinking that some of those things you mentioned, maybe psychology should be more involved in selfless service, in, you know, leading the crusade for sensitization.
I think I should come in here because Mani, Mental Awareness Nigeria Initiative, we offer free counseling sessions to people. So when we have a large presence online, so we have people sending us, we have a hotline, people call, and my friend is going through this, I need someone to speak to my friend. So we offer counseling sessions free of charge because we know that some people can't even afford to get this treatment. So we say, okay, we're going to give you 5 sessions. Then when you exceed 5, you now have to be referred to the psychiatric hospital if you have issues. But we're saying that we offer those things free of charge, but how sustainable is that going to be? That's what we're saying. Like what the doctor said about collaboration. Because you can't just start with the patients and then leave them hanging. They're going to relapse. So we're saying a consistent, sustainable way where we already available. We have like a large presence online, like I mentioned, and we also have people that are engaged in these practices that volunteer with us. But we're saying sometimes it gets so cumbersome. Actually, when we have cases like this, you see that our hotlines are off the rails. People are calling back to back because somebody is going through this from this event or the other. So we have downtimes, obviously, but then during times like this, it's always very overwhelming for our volunteers. So we're saying if we have the right partnership, the right sponsorships, definitely we'll be able to make the impact that is needed.
Okay, I'll take that to be your last word. You know, on this, Doctor, you look at talking about sustainability when it comes to counseling and everything.
Yes.
Don't you think that after 2 years of an incident, if you are still trying to talk to me about it, some people would say that you are trying to remind me of the past. You know, and I don't want to remember, because the more you talk about it, the more you keep, you know.
You see,
what does that mean?
You see, that is the mistake we are making.
Okay.
We are making that mistake, you know. And you remember I said that yes, relief materials, they send the children to hospital and all. It's just the first step.
Okay.
You know, we need to create an avenue where professionals, psychologists can meet the children and allow them to express their feelings, their emotions. When we allow them to do that, right, they'll be able to come to terms, right, with what has happened, so that 2 years later, even when you remind them, they will be confident to be able to say yes, but now we have come out of it, I have moved on. You know, it is not burying what happened to us. That kind of attitude is like we are burying it. We don't want to remember it because we have not come to terms with it. And that is what can actually cause post-traumatic stress disorder. That's the point I want to make. That we need, there should be a follow-up from all of this temporary, you know, making them, they are physically fit and all of that. We also need to ensure that we allow them to go through the emotions of their experience and then come to terms to it so that they can move on. Yes.
Thank you very much. We really have to go, but it looks like every discussion that has to be sustained, and you know, talking about continuous sensitization, maybe we are going to have a program, also a weekly program on continuous sensitization.
I think so.
So that
I think there is need. We need to, because I think we need to bring the psychological health to the table for our people.
I mean, there's no health without mental health.
Yes, there's no
health
health without mental health, and to let them know that there is need. They don't have to feel ashamed. If I'm feeling unhappy, to tell somebody. You know, there's a saying that problem shared is problem half solved. Many of our people, they go to the suicidal side or they go to depression because they do not share their initial problem. They are secretive about it, but it is in letting people know, that we can actually promote mental health.
Okay, so we here at Vanguard Life are going to take that as a recommendation from experts, to have a sensitization program on mental health.
And you can also check our website because we have resources
that we can make it. Okay, good. So the collaboration of started.
It has started.
Yes. Hopefully it gets
agree.
us to somewhere. Okay, that'll be all we take. I've been speaking with the head of departments of psychology, University of Lagos, Dr. Esther Akinshola. She's also an associate professor of psychology, and then Shola Ogunbiyi is the training lead for mentally aware Nigeria initiative. Okay, that was stick. Don't worry. When the collaboration started, okay, money. Okay, so that is all we'll be able to take for now. And please do join us. Leave your comments and how you can help us get our messages far across Nigeria in sensitizing people and ensuring that our life have the value that it's supposed to have. So we'll come away again. Thank you. Bye bye now.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.